Now let's go through some last bottom triple walkthrough solves using Keyhole. To be clear, this isn't a technique that you should use every single solve or anything. It is situational, so these scrambles are only going to be ones where it makes sense to use Keyhole, but it is a pretty versatile technique, so once you get the hang of it, you will find it comes up quite often. Anyway, on to the first example. So in this first example, we have a pair solved, and we want to insert this blue triangle, so we're going to be using hole in one. So again, the first step is to find a triangle and position it so it can be solved in 4 moves. So here it's in the U layer, meaning I put it above that empty slot, so I could solve it in 4 moves like that. Now, I just need to hide this pair by bringing in one from the U layer, right, which hides that pair in the back. Now I can insert this triangle without affecting that pair and restore it. Next, we have a very similar case where, again, we just want to solve this blue triangle, so we're going to be using hole in one. This time, though, we don't have any blue triangles in the U layer, so we're going to be using one of these 2 that are in the E layer. That means we want to put it in the back, so it can be inserted with 4 moves like that, right? And now we can just hide it like before, insert that blue triangle from the back, and then restore to finish off our last bottom triple. In this case, we have a triangle solved, and we want to insert the pair here, so this can be a trapped triangles case. Remember, the first step is to place our pair so it's not above this empty slot. So not here. Here is fine because that's a solved triangle, but here isn't because that's an unsolved one. So we'll just put it in the back like that, or you could put it here. Either one's fine, but I'm just going to put it in the back. And then, like I showed in the explanation, we're going to move our slot up to the top like that, and then we want to move this pair into this position with some kind of sledge or hedge. Here it needs to move clockwise, so it's going to be a sledge, and it actually needs to flip over because this blue needs to be facing downwards. So I'm going to do a sledge from this angle because that flips these 2 triples. So sledge like that, and then move it back down to finish off our last bottom triple. In this case, we have this blue triangle solved, and we want to insert this purple pair into the slot. So again, this is a trapped triangles case. Once again, we want to make sure that this isn't above our unsolved slot. So let's put it here. Again, back here would be fine as well, but I'm just going to put it here. Next, we want to move that slot up into the U layer, like that. If you're ever confused about whether to do this or that, just remember we're leaving the triangle in place. So let's do that. And now I want to move this pair into the slot. That's going clockwise, so I'm going to do some kind of sledge, but this is already facing downwards, right? This purple needs to be on the bottom, so it's the correct orientation, so I don't want to do sledge from this angle, because that would result in the pair being flipped. So instead I would do sledge from this angle, or you could just do back sledge, like that, which is the same thing, but more ergonomic. Anyway, after that, we just restore it, and that's our last bottom triple done. Okay, now this is an interesting case where we have the pair solved, but it's flipped in its slot. Ideally, this is a case you'd avoid, because like when you're finishing off your centers, you can just cancel into a sledge so that this doesn't wind up trapped in that slot. But you can't always do that, so sometimes you will get cases like this, so it's good to know how to deal with them. Also, this is an interesting sort of case because there's 2 options which are like basically just as good. They're pretty much the same number of moves. They might differ by 1 here or there, but yeah, both approaches are pretty much just as good. And that's that you can either use a traditional pairing approach by just taking out this pair and then pairing it up with the blue and then reinserting it, or you can use a trapped triangles approach. So I'll show the traditional approach first, where we start by taking out this pair. You do need to be a bit careful because if we just like insert this triple into here, like that, then we'll end up with blue facing upwards, and we need it to be facing downwards to pair up with anything. So we'll need to do another flip alg, which adds 4 moves. So this is actually the wrong way to do it. If we were going to solve this with the traditional approach, you'd want to do the inverse of that insert, which looks like that, which brings our pair into the top and it's correctly oriented. So now we can pair this up with that center, or that triangle rather. You'd also want to be careful when doing this that you actually do wind up with a triangle in the correct position, because like if I did that insert from here, for example, we don't have any triangles in the E-slice, so then I need to do another flip to put one of these triangles into the E-slice so it's available for pairing. So there's a bit of thinking with this approach, but it can be pretty good. So from the scramble, we had it set up like this, so I could just do that to bring the pair out, and then U prime to form our triple, and then insert it like that. So it is a really good approach, but it does take a little bit of thinking. The other way of solving it, though, would be with a trapped triangles approach. So this one's actually kind of simpler once you get the hang of solving with trapped triangles. And the way it works is I would just insert this blue triangle into the correct spot, like that, which automatically kicks this pair out of the way. And then I can just do an L prime to bring that slot into the U layer, and then bring this pair into its slot, which is counterclockwise. So I'm going to be doing a hedge, and this is oriented correctly. So a hedge from here is fine because that doesn't affect the orientation of this triple. It just flips these two. So hedge, and then L to bring that back down. In this case, I think the first solution would probably be slightly better. I think it's one move shorter and the finger tricks are a bit better, but it's good to be aware of your options because there are situations where one solution or the other one will be slightly better, and you just might prefer one way of solving. So yeah, good to be aware of your options. In this example, we once again have a couple of options. Actually, we have 3 options here. We can use a traditional approach, or a trapped triangles approach, or a hole-in-one approach, and they're all roughly the same number of moves. So the traditional approach would, of course, be to just flip over this pair and this triangle, like that, and then form our triple, and then insert it, like that. The trapped triangles approach, then, would be to insert this purple triangle into its slot, like that, and then to bring the slot up into the U layer, like so, and then to bring this pair into the correct spot, which is counterclockwise, and we need to flip it over to bring this blue down, so that means a hedge from this angle, and then I finish it off just like that. So this is actually a really fast and easy to finger trick solution. I think it might be slightly better than the traditional approach, and this is probably what I'd go for in a solve, but they're both great approaches. Let's also show the third one. I think it's not quite as good, but again, it's good to know what your options are. So the hole-in-one approach would be to just insert this pair, like that, and then to do hole-in-one, where we're inserting either one of these purple triangles into the slot. So we just want to put one of them above the spot, so it can be inserted in 4 moves, right? And then we would hide this pair, like that, insert the triangle, and restore it. Again, I think this is slightly slower, but it's still a pretty decent solution. So yeah, good to have in your repertoire. And in this final example, we have a triangle solve. We actually don't have a pair yet, but we are only 1 move away from making a pair. So I can just do a U prime to form that pair, and now this isn't above the slot, so it's good. And we can just move the slot up like that, and then this needs to go clockwise, and it doesn't need to flip because blue is already facing downwards, which is where we need it to be. So I do a sledge from this angle, just like I showed in the example video, in the explanation video, like that, and then finish off like that. Super easy solution.